How are you, Bob?
I am fantastic, sir. I am absolutely fantastic. Having the time of my life, and just I'll be even more fantastic when the actor strike is over.
I'm going to tell people to start asking your questions, keep them short and succinct, and not like, I did a piece of music that's got a flute, but I recorded it in 19, just like questions that aren't so particular for you, more about libraries, the library industry, the music industry, sync industry in general. And while you guys are coming up with your questions, and please do write the word question in all caps so I can spot them easily. I have a question that I'd like to ask you, which is on my list, which is how is the strike affecting the library industry?
Well, it's affecting everybody. It's affecting customers. It's affecting makeup people. It's affecting uh, cameramen. It's affecting boom men. It's affecting. I mean, people aren't working, and it's been going. We've been dealing with this strike since March. So, my the blessing for me is, we're usually they come to us when it's time for post. So, what's been happening for the last however many months we're talking now, people are coming to me for music for things that were already in the can, but those things are not going to be hitting the airwaves um, for a while. And a lot of what I've pitched and gotten confirmations on, I mean, these shows are being kicked back almost a year.
Wow.
So, oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard that thing about Mission Impossible. It was supposed to be a 2024 release, and now it's going to be a 2025 release. So, how does it affect us? Well, there's no sync income if there's nothing that is new that's hitting the airwaves. So though my royalties continue, thank God, um, the sync income is what it is. Thankfully, we're still doing business in Europe. Just licensed some stuff for an Australian film. Actually, we got very lucky. There's a film being released on Christmas Day. It's a great film, and have four very nice pieces of music in that film. It's called The Boys in the Boat. It's an amazing film. It's a really you would love the story, and that's been in the can for almost a year now, and it's finally coming out. So I was worried that they weren't going to release it because of the actors' strike, in solidarity, but it's airing Christmas Day. So very happy about that. And one of your taxi riders' pieces of music is one of the four that's in it.
Oh, who?
Ian Donaldson.
Awesome. That's great.
Yes.
I was going to say,
Yes.
if things are slow, maybe you could meet me in Miami. We could drive down to the Keys and go tarpon fishing for a weekend, but this is the wrong month to do that. Tarpon aren't biting right now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's actually been a blessing in disguise for me, um, because Stephanie and I have been working on this new website for quite a while now. We're getting very close to getting it over the finish line, and it's been a Herculean task. It's been revamping metadata, keywords, cleaning all of that lovely stuff that really no writer wants to deal with. And it's 30 plus years of metadata. So that's been really good because when you get so busy pitching, you don't have time to get into the weeds and fix this stuff up. So it's actually been great. I think we're going to finish the keyword dilemma actually this week, which is fantastic. And the new website's looking really good. And I think it's going to be very beneficial for not only our writers but the clients. It's going to be a deep dive.
Great. Yeah, well, that's the only question that's popped up so far in the queue is you mentioned social media, you're developing a new website. So now we know. That's cool. Let's talk about a subject that you and I are both not entirely expert on and can probably only paint in broad strokes. By the way, I had Adam Taylor from APM, and who's also the chairman of the PMA. I had him as my keynote. We talked quite a bit there about the elephant in the room, AI. Neither of us are techie rocket scientists, let's say, but I am becoming less and less afraid of AI, certainly for the relatively near future, because there's the whole issue of you can't copyright something made by a robot. And you and I both know, well, you could reaffirm what I think I know, which is networks are not going to use material that's not copyrighted. Um, and, there's no back end. There's just I had a long talk with Aaron Jacobson yesterday, one of our sequel sessions, kind of the music lawyer take on the whole thing. Um, General thoughts on AI without getting technical. How do you feel about it? Does it scare you? Do you see good ways to use it? Anything?
AI, I have no fear of. I find it to be like anything else. It's like when samples came along. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. When I came up, I was a bass player. I mean, I was in the studios recording sessions, yada yada yada, and he was like, "Well, how'd you start the publishing company?" I said, "Well, it kind of happened organically." I said, "But the timing couldn't have been better because it was right when all those, I'm old, so there
Not
weren't
as old as I
computers when
am,
I was a
Bucko.
kid. Well, yeah, right. So there weren't computers. I mean, there was no samplers. There was no any of that. So if they wanted bass on a TV show, I got hired. I played bass on quite a few TV shows and a lot of records and this and that. And when the samples started happening, it definitely affected things, but it didn't put anybody really out of business per se. It just was a change of the landscape. And AI will be a change of the landscape. As far as the legality of AI, currently you're correct. I forget which attorney came out or which court came out and said, well, it, anything that isn't created by a human can't be copywritten. I could see how that could be overturned at some point in time. But then the question is, as you say, with copyright, who owns that? Say you use it for a piece of music, who owns that piece of music? Is it the owner of the software? Is it the creator of the software? Is it Microsoft? Is it I, I don't know. And then with where I'm at with retitling, Michael, and so it could turn into a big mess. But creatively, I have yet to see AI step up to the plate. And believe me, I've been dealing with AI for years, and I've been trying to implement it into the Black Toast Music catalog from a standpoint of being able to find music, search music, recognize music. AI does not know the difference between a male vocal and a female vocal. It doesn't know the difference unless something's happened in the last month. And I've been through, I can't tell how many of the best AI companies out there. They're not working at a level that I need them to. And Stephanie and I talk about this all the time. It's hard to, when you're a trained musician, not to react to music where, that the second cello's out of tune, or the that's a male vocal, that's a female vocal. Oh, you know what? Okay, I can see the AI is grabbing on to the beat of the music, but it's not grabbing onto the genre of the music.
Right.
So it's interesting. I don't know who did the AI for disco, but of all things, that seems to be pretty competitive to me. I was like, well, that's pretty okay, all right, not perfect. But as far as creating music, Michael, I just don't see it. I mean, maybe for these people that do, you know, no
Wedding,
license fee music, you
right,
know,
wedding videos and such. But, you know, that brings me to another topic because I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. I have heard one piece of music that it was a drum solo. And Craig, our head screener, is like a world class, A-list, legit jazz drummer. And I played it for him, and he went, "Whoa, I'm impressed. That's the only piece of music." And I've listened to probably somewhere between 75 and 125 pieces of AI generated music. And you're right. Yeah, maybe somebody looking for, you know, music for some content, a wedding video, or, you know, my trip to Maine last summer. They might not even know the difference or be musical enough to care. Or certainly might not have the same production values as somebody who's a professional in the industry. So
right.
I'm not afraid, and I am also encouraged, as you are, about the possibilities for searching more thoroughly, searching more quickly, because anytime a company like yours can search more efficiently, effectively, and rapidly, that means more opportunities for the people who are assigned to you to make money because you just find more stuff faster and get it out there faster.
Well, and as you know, Michael, I've never considered myself a production music library.
Right. It's a
That
generic term.
it well, and it tends to be those people that have 50,000, 100,000, half a million instrumental tracks. I mean, that's where AI is going to
Right.
be beneficial. Not with a company like me per se, because for me, I'm the little train that could. We know our catalog. We're a small catalog. I don't have 100,000 pieces of music that I represent. And between Stephanie and I in our ears, we pretty much know what we can offer to anybody who's looking for music. When it comes to, you know, what I call wallpaper, where it's just a splash of indescriptive music behind a lot of dialogue. Well, okay, maybe that's where AI could help out. And there are plenty of catalogs that are humongous, and those huge catalogs are buying up a lot of the me's of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm not for sale.
Yeah, we won't find you prancing up and down Santa Monica Boulevard at midnight ever. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
somebody asked before, oh, here it is. Peaches Cranko wants to know, are there any particular genres that are hot for you, for your company? Because something I'd like to explain, if there are people watching this that aren't very familiar with the music licensing business, different libraries, different I'm sorry, I'm using the term library generically here, but different companies, different suppliers of music to the industry. Bob may have a bunch of shows that are like 60-minute dramas on networks. Somebody else might have lean more firmly in the field of reality show, a lot of instrumental music. Somebody else might be really good at getting stuff in feature films on the regular. So each company has kind of its own personality as far as the types of clients they deal with. And so they tend to sign music that appeals to their clients. Oh, that brings me to a question, and I will get back to the genre thing. So many people still come from that record industry background of if my song is great and they love it, the doors will swing wide open for me. And I beg them to cross the chasm and understand that in our end of the industry, in the music licensing end of things, it's do you have the right music for this scene? Does it elevate the story? Does it elevate the emotion? Does it make the scene 20% better than it was, or maybe 80% better than it was without music in it? Um, so you could have the greatest song in the world, but it's just not right, either for sync in general or for Bob's clientele. So that considered, the question from Peaches in the chat room was, are there any genres that are hot for you right now, if it weren't a strike?
Well, well, okay. Thankfully, I am not so niche that all I deal with is either hip hop, or all I deal with is jazz, or all I deal with is orchestral music. I happen to be very lucky that I have a very broad clientele that comes to me for a very broad sense of things. Uh, I mean, any genre at any time could be the hottest thing ever. Like, a show comes along and it's all about 80s sounding stuff,
Right.
authentically recorded in the 80s. And that's what that show is 1000% about. And then the show runs a season, a second season, a third season. Now they're in syndication. Great. For me, it's, as far as genre goes, I would just say I don't really screen music based on genre per se.
Hmm.
I screen music based on quality, because what has kept my company, the small little train that could, going, surrounded by the behemoths of people that have immense catalogs, is because I focus on, as you know, focus on very high quality. Hip hop is still probably, hip hop and pop, they're all kind of like doing this now,
Yeah.
but that's probably the largest um, thing that is reached for. But then again, it's like my crooner music, 40s, 50s, Sinatra, Mel Torme, or classic R&B, Al Green, stuff that's in that vibe. I mean, I get asked for it all. And then I've got clients, thank God, during this actor strike. That's where my reality TV people are fantastic,
Right.
because there is no actor strike. It just continues.
There's certainly no acting, that's for sure.
Well, I didn't say that, but
I did.
but they're not bound by this union situation, and so I can keep pumping out that sort of a thing. Unfortunately, most of my reality TV stuff, it's not a sync income thing. It's a performance license, and but when times are tough and you're not doing sync income, as long as you're still getting placements, that's a fantastic thing. And we do business with those people. We do great business with companies like Vice and some of these other people, and it's all, for the most part, instrumental music. What I love about Vice is it pulls my heartstrings, because they're always looking for that sort of like left of center, not that mainstream, ticket, 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 ticket. They're looking for really cool, hip uh, instrumental music, and I love that. But I do
Listen,
have clients that are just out and out hip hop. I mean, I don't know, 20 some seasons of America's Next Top Model. That was hip hop all day long, instrumental
right.
for days.
Um, it's funny. One of the questions that popped up that scrolled off now, but I want to address it, was how long does it take for a deal? So I have a short story to tell, and then I'll get specific about licensing. Companies like yours, how long a deal takes to wrap up. I get in the elevator at the road rally. There's a guy with pretty darn long hair, and another guy standing with him. Oh, hi, you're the guy. You're Michael from Taxi. Yes, I am. You enjoying the road rally? Yes, we are. But we're a little bummed out. I said, why is that? It's, well, we got an offer from a record label, a metal record label, through a Taxi Forward after seeing a listing. And they started emailing us, and we've had some conversations, and then they presented us with the contract. We had some back and forth on that, and it's taken like 3 months already. And we're like ready to back away from it. Just feels like it's taking too long. To which I said, dudes, Signing with the record label? I mean, I've seen those deals take a year and a half. Of course, it's the lawyers just trying to have more billable hours, I think, that drag it on that long. But 3 months did not feel like too long of a time period for a record deal. Not a music licensing deal, but a record deal. So now let's talk about music licensing deals. And there's so many aspects of this that we can address. Number one, people don't seem to really understand that there's a difference between signing a licensing deal with a company like yours or a classic, instrumental music library, um, and they don't have a music attorney, so they go to a friend that is a generic lawyer, maybe a real estate attorney or an estate attorney or a corporate attorney. But that person loves music from the 70s, and they took a music law course back in the day, 1977, and they weigh in and they say, oh my gosh, this company wants 100% of the publisher's share. I would never sign that. They're trying to scam you. To the best of my knowledge, which is pretty considerable after all these years, there are very few, if any, companies out there calling them generically calling them libraries again, that don't take 100% of the publisher's share and the writers get 100% of the writer's share. Basically, you are in a marriage and it's 50-50. If the company makes a buck, you make a buck. Um, Am I crazy, or is that very much the industry standard and completely different than if you were going to sign with Warner Chappell and pitch your music to major label artists? That would be a different can of worms.
Well, uh, you know, I've been doing the business that I've been doing the way I've been doing it forever. And uh, there was a period of time, though short, in the very beginning that I didn't do business this way. And I ended up coming to the conclusion that if I don't have 100% control of a piece of music, I'm dead in the water. Because if
Explain,
I
yeah, tell the why.
Well, the why is because this business, when there isn't an actor's strike, it moves at warp speed. I mean, when everything is normal, you don't have time to brush your teeth. It's moving so fast, and people want music now, and they want to know it's clear. They want to know that there's no skeletons in the closet. They want to know that when Bob says yes, you can use this piece of music, that's a yes, you can use this piece of music. Not yes, but let me make sure I got to call that one writer that has 10% of this
Yeah, who
piece of
unfortunately
music.
passed away 6 months ago, and his heirs are sorting out the estate, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what stopped me from, unfortunately, signing a lot of vintage material. And we've talked about that as well. It's like, well, it was a 5-piece band, and we recorded it in the 80s, but the lead singer, he passed away 5 years ago, and I'm like, well, who controls his portion of the master? And we don't really know, we kind of had a falling out with the family, and it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
My hands are tied. um, it's the depth of what we have to go through to get something over the finish line would boggle your mind. As far as speed goes, if I get approached by a writer and they can say, I control this, or I have the okay with my co-writer or co-writers to engage in this conversation with you, Bob, we can get it done like that. I mean, we can get it done very fast.
There are people who will say, I don't know if libraries deserve 50%, to which I say, you have no idea what goes on behind the scene. Can you give a quick explanation of Taxi forwards you a piece of music? You think I could license this all day long. It'll be evergreen. Everything about this works. You love it. What's the first thing you do? Email or a phone call to the creator of that music?
The first thing I do is I send it to Stephanie, who I have.
That's
I'm just being honest.
yeah,
We have a relationship that I wish everybody in this industry could have. In that her ears are stellar. I think I've got pretty good ears, but we come from two different
right,
generations. And she's an ethnomusicologist. I bring my years of being a musician with, sessions and touring and blah, 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 blah. So 99% of the time we agree. Oh, this is great. As you say, this is going to get licensed all day long. But if we don't agree, and there have been a number of times, not a lot, but a number of times where Steph will go, well, I know you're not liking it because of this, but we've been getting a lot of requests for this particular Southern style, whatever. And I think it would be a smart move to lean into it. So that's the first thing I do is
okay,
I go to a person I trust implicitly with their ears, their knowledge of the all that.
yeah,
Then what I'll do is I'll send an email. Hey, John, you know, thank you so much for considering Black Toast music. Blah, blah, blah. Uh, Before we move any further, I want to let you know we love your music, but I want you to know who we are, and what we do, meaning our business model. And I want you to review this information. And if you, after reading it all, and hopefully you consult with an attorney, if you're still interested, we need this and this and this. And basically, this number one would be the song title, which you wouldn't believe how many times people they'll send me something that says, love you in the audio, but the actual title is "It's Because I Love You."
right.
And so,
Which one do we go with?
and when it comes to registrations, when it comes to work IDs, when it comes to, it's like a credit card. If every digit doesn't match, it's not that. You could do AKAs, also known as, um, but we have to know that. And so we need to know the title. We need to know who the writers are. So, I'll have somebody send me something and it'll be like, oh, this is great. We're going to get this licensed all day long. Stephanie and I agree. I send them the paperwork. They send it back to me and there's like 5 writers. And I'm like, okay, so you pitched this to me. Do these other 4 people know that you pitched it to me? And are they on board with doing this kind of business? Oh, I don't know. Now you're stuck. So when you're talking about, pace of how long it can take to go through things, it can take quite a while. And it's like, well, yeah, I've got a writer 1, writer 2, writer 3, but writer 4 and 5 aren't responding to my emails or my texts. So I'm sitting here, I've listened to music. I've put it up against everything that I know. I've put it up against Stephanie. I've put it through the ringer. I send the email that spells out our business model, and now we're on hold. But that's kind of what happens. But let's say the writer comes back to me and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm the sole writer. I'm the sole producer. I did this all by myself. Blah blah blah." I go, "Great, boom. Here's an agreement. Get this done. We need a W-9 from you, so we just know when the millions of dollars come in, we know who to send it to."
He's
And
kidding. It's not millions of dollars. Just he's kidding.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But we're a business, and it was so funny. I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. It's like, and we've had this conversation on panels before. You've got music, and then you got business, and then when you combine the two, now you got the music business. And those two things together change the whole trajectory of just music versus just business. So now you have to be able to, play the game. Now you got contracts. Now you have to have decisions. You have to be able to make decisions. And, we've had these conversations with taxi riders. Don't send music to Taxi if you're not going to respond to a publisher who reaches out to you and says, this is a great piece of music. We'd love to add it to our catalog. Michael has been fantastic. I mean, I read his briefs. I read exactly word for word what he sends out to the writers. And I go, that's great. If they read this, we're going to be okay. I can't tell you how many times they don't read it. And we hit an impasse, or I get ghosted. They just don't respond.
Yeah. I hear that from other people in your position at other companies, that maybe 20% of the people they reach out to, these people read the listing, they submitted their music to that listing, then they were notified they were forwarded. You'd think they would say, wow, awesome. They think my music is a good fit for this company. Hopefully the company agrees with Taxi, and hopefully I'll get a deal offer. And then they ghost you. And we really have a couple people over the years have told me anecdotally, I'm afraid to reach back out to him because my uncle, who's an attorney who deals in wills and trusts in Ishpeming, Michigan, told me that everybody in the music industry wants to rip you off, so I'm not going to sign that deal. And then they complain, Taxi didn't get me a deal. There are other people that find out that you're exclusive, and they go, I didn't want my music signed with anybody exclusively, even though listings that we send out for you have the word exclusive, in all caps a couple of times in the listing. You and several other companies that we do that for still get people to say, I don't want to sign with an exclusive company, even though it said it twice in all capital letters. So I don't know. I give up. You
Well,
can lead a horse to water, you know?
well, you can't control that. All I'm suggesting, and hopefully there's people out there listening, is that we're all people here. So if I take the time to listen to a piece of music that Taxi forwards to me, I'd appreciate the courtesy of just even if it says in the brief, this is an exclusive catalog, and then you didn't for some reason catch that, but then you see the paperwork I send that says we're an exclusive catalog. Just do me the courtesy of going, hey, I'm glad you like the piece of music, but we've decided we're not interested in exclusive. Then I can move on. Then you're not going to have me tapping on your shoulder 2 weeks later going, hey, we're still interested. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So
You know,
all this bottom lines to, you could spend a couple to several hours before the deal is done, the music's ingested, it's properly meta tagged, all this stuff. It's not as easy as, I love this music and I'm going to send you over this little letter of intent and you sign on the bottom line, and about 30 days later the money's going to start rolling in. I think some people think that that's how it's going to work. um, I think that there's some people out there that think that when a licensing company signs their music, that they send out an email to 500,000 entities on the production side of the industry saying, guess what? We just signed this brand new song, I Love Debbie by Mikey and the Jets. Guess what my wife's name is. So they are really stuck in this old record industry mindset when most everybody wants to be involved with licensing because it's a realistic path to income, but you have to work at it. You have to be professional.
yeah, well, and I've said this to a lot of writers, as you may or may not know. It's if you go down the path of signing with a publisher that does licensing deals out there with film and television, it doesn't negate you from being an artist.
Right.
There's no reason you can't be an artist and be involved with a publisher that is pitching your music to film, television, and advertising. It does, there's no, at least with my company, there's no reason that can't happen. And I have plenty of people, many people in my catalog that are artists that are out there touring and playing and
Yeah.
gigging, and I'm an adjunct to their gigging. I mean, if they could say, "Hey, my piece of music was heard in True Blood and Dexter and blah 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 blah," all of a sudden now when they start doing press for their gig coming up, and they can go, "Oh, blah blah blah, as heard on da 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 da." Now you've got some people going, "Well, I don't know who he is, but I love that show. Let's go, honey. Let's go to the show tonight."
Yeah. Or they Shazam it and they add it to their Spotify playlist. So you make a couple pennies there. It all adds up. Um,
It does.
let's see if I'm missing any questions in here. Let's scroll back up for a moment.
Hopefully there, hopefully there's people out there, Michael.
Yeah, there are people. By the way, I see Kano in the chat room. I had him on yesterday explaining his work process, his workflow, because he's fast, as you well know. He's freakishly fast. So we did 90 minutes on how he does it so quickly. And I've got to say, at the end of that interview, I thought, man, I could pretty much put him on TAXITV on any topic and he would be fascinating. So, Kano, I love you, brother. You did a great job yesterday. All right.
Kano shot me a text after you guys were done yesterday, and he was like, "Oh man, I see you're on tomorrow. I'm gonna tune in." I was like, "Oh man, I wish I had known you were on tonight." But Marcus is he's a true find again. Taxi. Is
Yeah.
people
Paul
and
Otten,
relationship.
another one. Both of these guys, instant, like, as soon as you heard them, you recognize what we recognize, and both of them have had a long and prosperous relationship with you. Worked out for
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, and that's so true. And what I love about these cats is they actually know what the hell they're doing, not just from a production standpoint or a writing standpoint, but they understand the business. They know what they're doing. They
Right.
back to, can you be an artist and can you be in a music library or indie publisher? These guys do that. Otten's out touring. He's doing the Big Little Lions thing. He's doing what he does, and I love him for it. I mean, fact of the matter is, you know what? I reached out to him for a piece of music about, oh God, 6 months ago, and I haven't even told him, but that piece of music ended up in
Is that
an
you
entitled credit.
Is that you tapping?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's me tapping. That's my nervous energy.
I
Yeah.
thought you were texting.
No,
I have to
no.
say, Matt, my wife tells me I type and hit my phone harder than anybody she's ever met is going to hand the mantle of hard tapping to you. Okay, so going back to people stuck in the record industry frame of mind. People who are not familiar with the music licensing industry seem to be very hung up on, but my song is great. Everybody tells me it's great. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that their family members, their friends, and their fans are correct and the music is great. You might still pass on it. Give some reasons why even great music doesn't work for a licensing company, number one, and then for the entities, the films, TV shows, whatever form of media that it might go in. So first, what are you looking for beyond I like this piece of music?
Well, I this is a very interesting conversation that Stephanie and I go through, and being lovers of music, I get pulled all the time. Like, oh God, I really want to have this in the catalog. This is so great. And then Stephanie and I will this is the stuff nobody sees, but Stephanie and I go through and we go, yeah, but where are we going to get this placed with our clientele? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I love my clientele, but I would say that there's many of them that don't really have that sort of thing that they're looking for, that Stephanie and I are always looking for.
Yeah.
It's that thing where you go, this is so cool, and I think I can get this placed like many times over. That combination is a home run. That's where you go. I mean, that's where that's where Kaino, that's where Otten, that's where Ethan Nakamura, that's where many people I've met through Taxi, they live there. And we have a wonderful relationship because of just that, and they know from working with me for the years, it's like, no, I don't want wallpaper. I want something that is really gonna, because it's gonna be good for them and for me. Because it's like my clients are gonna go, oh, this guy represents music that's not your average bear, so to speak.
Right.
This stuff is album quality. This is broadcast quality. This is wow. Who are these people? And that's what makes what I love about the business. It's that I'm not signing everything under the sun. And when I pass on things, it's based on, can I get this placed? And it kills me when it's a killer piece of music and I'm going, I don't know who I'm going to get this placed with.
Yeah.
And I'll reach back to them and I'll go, I love it. Stephanie loves it. We all love it. I wish to go, if you want to sign it with me, under the hopes that one day I can get this placed, great. But I need you to know, I can't for the life of me think of where it's going to live right now.
Right. Whereas a really well written, well produced, beat driven, poppy song with an uplifting vibe that's very of today, very current, that maybe 3, 4 times a year that song is going to get picked by somebody when you send it out on a pitch versus something. Oh, here's a great example. I played 3 times at 3 different points during the rally. I played a song called, I can't remember the name. Anyway, it became a Rascal Flatts hit. And the publisher who signed one or both of the writers who wrote it gave me a copy probably 15 years ago. And I mean, literally, Stephanie was wiping tears on the panel when she listened to it. Pedro was sitting next to her wiping tears when he heard it. But the lyric is, I can hear the truck tires on the gravel road. Normally she's got the radio on, but not today. I'm paraphrasing here. And she rang the doorbell. It's all adding up. Oh, the song is called Here Comes Goodbye. A lot of detail, or what they call in Nashville, is furniture in the room. So much visual detail. The song literally is one of the best written songs I think I've ever heard. There are nights where I'm sitting in my office 10, 11 o'clock and I put it on to remind myself why I'm in the music industry, because there are people that can craft something so perfect and so beautiful out of their soul. It literally comes from their toes and out of their heart. And couldn't license that thing to, if somebody put a 45 to your temple and said licenses, you'd be dead because there's so much story in it. Unless you had
Right.
your girlfriend driving up the road, on a gravel road in a truck and ringing the doorbell versus walking right in, all the things that are in that story. And even then it would be too on the nose. It would be sickeningly on the nose.
And I get those briefs that they'll say, and we don't want anything super on the nose when it comes to a lyric, and because they don't want it to seem as though it was written for the scene.
Right.
Um, but that's the kind of guy. That's what I call a great song crafter, and those are the people that write music like that should be reaching out to the Nashville publishers
Yeah.
and trying to get them to represent the piece of music to some of the well-known artists out there. Um, those are pretty darn specific, but they have a lot of value, and there's a lot of people in the country music world that's what they live for. They live for those stories.
we have seen a huge uptick in the number of country requests that are coming through Taxi. It used to be really rare. It's very cyclical, that's for sure. We've had super strong years and super weak years. But the one notable thing is that we're seeing quite a few libraries, licensing companies asking us for country. And it's tough because the people that do that genre and do it well have been trained to put all that furniture in the room. And it's hard to get them to back down. It's like, okay, we don't need to know about the truck tires on the gravel road. We need to know somebody broke up with you and this is how I feel. Make it
Right.
broad, make it universal. Don't tell us a story other than I've been dumped and I'm heartbroken. There's my whole lyric, Bob. Now you know why I'm not a songwriter. Um,
Yeah.
So somebody just asked the question, what makes something placeable over and over? Which is a fair question. And we were dancing around it. What makes something eminently like you hear it and you go, I could get that placed all day long.
Well, it's 30 plus years of doing this and seeing what has lived and what hasn't lived. It's something I don't know that can be trained per se, but as I've said before, if you're engaging in this business, one of the best things you can do is watch television, watch movies, and see what gets selected for particular things. I can't tell you how many times back, uh, and still to this day, I can go, well, do you watch TV? And no, I don't like anything that's on TV. Well, but you're trying to put your music into television. I mean, it might benefit you to know what's getting placed out there. When
You're
back the
too
country,
you're too kind. I would be much more direct and say something like, if you want to open a bakery, you better know what kind of cookies people want to buy.
yes, yeah. If you're going to be a car salesman, know what what's
Yeah,
what's the hot car. It's for me what when I select. Yeah, it's really weird, Michael. It's so organic. It really is, and that's what I love about Stephanie. Is she has that same thing, and she's been with us now for 5 years, which I couldn't believe. Um, but it's with time you pitch things and you go, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And then you watch the show and you go, oh my god, I can't believe they picked that.
yeah.
Really, and so you kind of this is where it gets very difficult, and you maybe don't sign some unbelievable piece of music because you go, it's over 90% of my clients' heads.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that. I have those clients that are, and off Taxi TV, we can talk about them, and we have. I mean, I've had clients go, I need something in D minor. I need it to be about 120 BPM, and I need it to be hip hop in the style of blah 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 blah. And that's so much easier to deal with than uh, I need rock music. Got any?
So let me go back to Katrina's question. What makes something, and tell me if I'm nuts, but what makes something, placeable time and time again? It's, first of all, in a popular genre. Nothing, like Dutch heavy metal with female vocals is something you might get a request for once in a career. Whereas mid-tempo singer-songwriter about having a great day is something that you could get used in a commercial. You could use it in deodorant commercial. You could use it in laundry commercial. You could use it for going out to dinner at a restaurant. You could use it for fashion. You could use it in a TV show in a scene where somebody wakes up and the new day is dawning. That's what he means. It's something that just think about it. It's pretty obvious, but most people don't take that minute to think about it. So while I don't want to impede anybody's creativity, when you are creating, if you can loosely put yourself in a mindset of creating something that is very universal. We all have a great day, or we certainly would like to. Mine will be a lot better once I'm done with this afternoon's programming and I'm free. I'm still waking up at 4:30 in the morning worrying about the road rally, even though the hotel version is over. Um,
Am, am I the last in the series?
no, there's a video, really good video from the guys at Waves. They were as the plugin company, which we've become very close with them. They're very likable people. And I have many, probably 25 plugins by them. I'm super impressed. First of all, really good quality at really fair prices. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsored the rally. I bought those plugins before I ever knew them. And they have a video, Dave Darlington, a mixing video, which they use to demonstrate a certain line of their plugins. And the mixing video is one of the best I've ever seen. So that's on after you. And then after that, Robin Frederick doing a thing on like 5 mistakes songwriters make. And then I'm done. I'm going to go home tonight and like turn on the TV and try so hard not to think about Taxi or the Road Rally. Um,
Good for you.
Thank you. Somebody asked, Tony Salazzo wants to know, wow, did we just lose a light? Felt like a light just turned off in here. That was weird. Tony Salazzo asked the question, I'm guessing you are reaching out to supervisors to ask them ruck. Oh, are you okay? I.e., how are you maintaining relationships when the strike is on? So, yeah, what do you do when the strike is on? Supervisors, funny enough, I had a hard time getting supervisors to say yes to doing the road rally because they're all out of town on vacation. They figure, what the hell? I'm not working. I might as well go to my Aunt Betty's house in Maine and chill on a lake for a month.
Right.
Are you doing anything to just like say howdy, like send them a box of Krispy Kremes? Don't forget about me when things get busy again.
Uh, no, actually. The people I deal with, I have dealt with them for so long. Um, you know, we survived COVID. COVID happened. All the production shut down. Nobody could do anything. No one could be on set. Um, and we survived. And this is another one of those. It's a blip on the screen. And do I need to be bugging these people when I know they're not
Right.
wanting to be bugged? It's like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm friends with most of them. They respect me and the business we do. I did just get a very large brief yesterday, I want to say. Um, don't know when this show is going to air, but it is a Netflix show. But the writer or the actor strike will hold it up. That being said, the supervisor has been hired, and they're looking to start filling the bins with various music. So that's how it rolls. And like I say, I don't want to bug them. I mean,
Yeah.
these are people that they respect me. I respect them, and I respect their privacy and home life. And if it's a rough streak, then let's just let it. Once this gets finalized, the floodgates are going to open like nobody's business, and it will happen. It will happen. But no, that isn't something I do. They know me. I know them. But that's a position that I'm blessed to be in after 30 plus years. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're new, you're not in that situation.
You know that the strike has had a dramatic effect on supervisors when you go out for dinner and drinks and take an Uber because you might actually have 2 drinks while you're out, and you get in the Uber and it's a music supervisor driving you home. That would be sad. That'd be very sad.
Yeah, well, I've read stories of a lot of people that are not necessarily supervisors, but a lot of people that are in the business, and yeah, they're dog walking and they're doing whatever it takes to make ends meet, and it's brutal. It's
Yeah.
brutal. These situations. I mean, COVID wasn't that long ago, and then to come up with this. I mean, this has been going on since March.
Yeah. And
It's a
any
long.
news the other day as I was driving Wednesday night to the hotel? the day before the rally started, I actually heard on the radio that they were sitting down again, and both sides felt positive, like headway was being made. And then I haven't heard another peep. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't. I haven't. And I've got some very dear friends that are major TV composers, and no actors,
Yeah.
no show. So there's no scoring, and everyone's doing what they do. If you're successful, you can ride through it. If you're, like I say, young to the game, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Not for nothing. About 3, 4, 5 months ago, I got a really nice letter from a taxi member who said, I see you getting beat up a little bit on YouTube or Twitter or wherever. And I just want you to know there are a lot of us out there that really see what you do and appreciate it, and just wanted to send some love your way. And it was such a nice email that I picked up the phone and called him to thank him for sending it. And we really hit it off on the phone. Turns out he lives in Sherman Oaks, 20 minutes from my office. I invited him out for dinner. Turns out we both have a love of Korean and Japanese barbecue, the kind where you cook your own meat at the table. Um, and we just hit it off. I mean, he's just a ball of energy, incredibly smart, and turns out he's executive producer, writer, creator, executive producer of several TV shows and documentaries, a couple of which I'd already watched. So I was familiar with his work. He does a lot of true crime stuff on Discovery.
Okay.
And Anyway, my point being that during the course of the second or third time we went out on a date, he started talking. Oh, he's a composer too, and composes a lot of the music for his own shows. And I swear, when you meet him, you would know that he doesn't compose his own music for his own shows because he wants the money so much as he just loves making music.
Right.
But what he does during the course of dinner, he started talking about how he uses stems. And frankly, to me, stems, like, yeah, I can understand somebody walks into a bar, there's a country song on the jukebox, they get on the floor, they're dancing on top of crushed peanuts out there on the floor, and they have an intimate conversation, and you want to duck or remove the vocal from the song ostensibly playing on the jukebox 50 feet away so that you can hear that little intimate moment on the dance floor. That's what I would use a stem for. He actually orchestrates using pieces of his stems where he's not just doing like a mix minus vocal stem or maybe just background ooh ahs or something. He'll take like a little guitar lick or arpeggiated piano thing and take that and use it on an act out every time they're leaving a scene and going to commercial. It's the and it's not even recognizable as part of the cue anymore. But he says the joy of it, other than just having fun musically, is that you can take one cue and make 5, 6, 7 times as much income with it because it doesn't matter what part of the queue is getting used. It's still the queue, and it still shows up on the queue sheet.
That
If
is
you
correct.
if you and I were hanging out at either of our houses watching one of his shows, you would immediately, within 2 minutes, say, "This show feels like quality," and then you realize it's the music. So I invited him to do his thing at the rally. It was an amazing demonstration, and I wished every taxi member could be there. But I got inspired during the whole thing and said, I don't think enough library owners put enough emphasis on stems. They're not thinking about stems the way you are creating them and using them. So I'm going to get the 200-seat theater at the West End, and we're going to do a thing for supervisors and libraries just to come and have him recreate exactly what he did on stage at the rally. Everybody's lights are going to go on and go, I never thought about that. He's doing something totally different than just stripping out a pad and laying it in another place. Really
No, I
cool.
understand. Well, the reason that a catalog certainly like mine, I've been resistant to stems because you have now, certainly on a big band piece of music, you have now the amount of metadata and now it's exponential. So now you've got, let's say it's a Sinatra big band piece of music. So now you got the vocal, the full instrumental, the drums, the bass, the piano, the if there's guitar, the sax section, baritone, alto, tenor. Now you're talking like you've now just
Right.
you know
So
it
I have the answer to this, which is because you're right. He absolutely sometimes will have 2 or 3 dozen stems on one cue, which is,
correct.
is ridiculous, and that's a lot of work. But you know what? AI. There's a great use of AI. AI. Stem this out and properly tag everything for me. That's coming down the pike pretty quick, and I think that it'll make it. When you see his presentation, you will be excited. You will not be able to sleep that night when you see it.
Well, yeah, and I'd love to see it, and it's not that I. It's also a matter of when you have a website, you have to be able to present it to your clients in such a way that uh, they can see those stems, put them together in various combinations, and it's a
Right.
daunting. I mean, these are things that don't get me wrong. I don't not see the benefits, but
It's work.
it's oh my god,
Yeah.
oh my
Well,
god,
hopefully AI will make that work much easier. I've got to admit, I used AI not to write the questions for the road rally, and I'm learning. I'm learning how to better prompt ChatGPT because
yeah,
garbage in, garbage out. And if you work hard enough on getting the right prompts, it would give me a list of great questions. Although I didn't use any fully written question from ChatGPT, I would use the essence of the question. It gave me seeds of ideas. So in that case, I had a broader range of questions, and I was able to bang out a panel in like 2 hours versus four. It definitely was a
sure.
time saver.
Well,
Here,
and I've definitely played with Chat, and I highly encourage people to play with Chat GPT. And I have myself, from a standpoint of giving it lyric prompts to see what it would come up with, storyline prompts to see what it would come up with, and uh, 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 philosophical questions to see what it would come up with, because I wanted to see if there was bias,
right,
um,
there
one
is
way or the other.
bias.
There's definitely bias, and it's interesting. Again, if you're a songwriter, if you're Paul Otten, I would not be going to ChatGPT to have them write me my lyric. I mean,
No, but
it's
you
not.
would go to ChatGPT to say, ChatGPT, from the perspective of a TV show music supervisor, what type of songs would be commonly used in a show like Grey's Anatomy? And it would give you a list of things that would spawn ideas if you were stuck, like you had writer's block.
Well, if it gave them all those answers, then we wouldn't need Taxi TV with guys like me trying to give some answers. But it's quite fascinating. Uh, it isn't quite there yet. You're right. It does depend a lot on the prompts. The one thing I do see it being great at is the difference between subjective and objective. So, objective material, it's great at. Subjective, is this a good lyric? Is this a good song? Is this a good vocal? Is this the subjective thing? It's not quite dialed in. But if you're an attorney and you're looking to have some paper written on case law that's been in the books for 50 years, it's great.
Yeah, it's, excuse me, definitely a thing. I don't think anybody who writes songs has to worry just yet. Here's a question from Cherie, I think is the way you pronounce her name. I've heard that sometimes licensing companies are nervous about songs with writers slash musicians from multiple countries. Under what circumstance could that be the case? That's a really good question.
For me, that's never the case.
You're not
Ever,
nervous. Okay.
never, never.
Um, so, Dad, the only rub I could think of is the person, let's say that the song comes from a writer, let's say Paul Otten, he's United States based. He's got a great relationship with you, and let's say he co-writes something with who's our friend from Ibiza or wherever he's from. Um,
Ibiza.
yeah, one of the islands off of Spain.
Oh, Coughlin.
Yeah, Paulie. Nobody's ever called him Paulie. I hope he's not watching. He's gonna go, come on, Laskow. Anyway, so Paul Otten's going to get paid on the back end much faster than Paul Coughlin is because Coughlin's thing has to go through two PROs rather than one. And then they got to put it in a little bottle and shove it in the Atlantic and hope that it drifts on shore wherever it is that he lives.
Well, that's PRO and how they function.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with me or the placement or, I get the sync fee. Those monies go out at the same time. So, you know, Coughlin gets his money at the same time Otten does. I mean, I still deal with Matt Hurt. Matt is no longer in the U.S. and I largely reach to him for foreign language material, and those singers and co-writers, or it could be Russian, could be Chinese, could be, and we've had zero problem. And those people also have zero problem. Where it gets a little funny is just trying to pay people in other countries their sync income because PayPal eats up a good chunk of their sync income when I have to send it via PayPal. So we're trying to work, and ACH, you can't do ACH outside of the US. So we've gotten it down to a pretty good science, and but there's really no issue at all. I've got writers in India and Germany and Spain and UK and all over the world.
So Sherry asked a bit of a follow up. She goes, I wrote a lot with folks from Nigeria, and someone told me there might be too many people on the song, and that's what makes people in the industry nervous. Is there a threshold? Like if there are seven writers on a song? I,
No, my criteria is, do I like the song? And
okay.
once I like the song, then I'm going to go through whatever it takes to get it over the finish line. If a writer, one of those seven, doesn't want to do a deal with us, well, that it's dead in the water. But no, I don't put blinders on with that stuff. No, my criteria is good music.
Um,
Bottom line.
Pierre Venio asks a question: is Afrobeat still getting hotter?
AfroBeat, yeah. I mean, the thing about AfroBeat, and in fact, Stephanie and I were listening to a piece that came our way this morning, and we both looked at each other. I said, "Well, I wouldn't be so quick to sign it." I said, "But Steph, what do convince me? You're the ethnomusicologist." She goes, "Well, this isn't Afrobeat, and this is kind of my sense." And people put labels on things, and that's okay. It's just Afrobeat is not something that just anybody, in my experience, can do. It's a particular type of music. It's got this. I don't even know what words to put on it, but when you hear it, you know it, and yeah, I'd love to be able to sign some Afrobeat stuff.
Um, I have a question because I'm not seeing another one just yet. Um, Audio levels. Obviously, we all, when we're auditioning a playlist, let's say you're auditioning a taxi playlist, and everything is at a normal level. And then you get to one where it's considerably lower in volume than everything else. It's notable. If it's a great piece of music, you might strain and hear it and go, oh, that sounds great, and you turn it up. It does have some effect on the listenability, um, but people get very hung up on lufs and the technical aspect of loudness. And we see a lot of submissions where it's like a brick wall on a waveform, which I think makes it really hard for editors to glance at it and know if they're good edit points, things like that. any sage advice on the overall topic of levels?
Well, levels really, for me, in my equation, depend on the genre or the era. So, I mean, it's really funny. You go to Spotify and you're listening to Led Zeppelin, or you're listening to a bunch of stuff from the '70s or even the '60s, and it's a lot of that stuff's remastered, and it's remastered for streaming situations. So, it's a completely different aesthetic than what the actual original track was. So yes, I've got clients and they expect it to be at a certain place. So if it's where I'm listening to it going, well, God, I love this piece of music, but it needs to be mastered hotter, I'll turn to the writer and I'll go, do you have an engineer that you could get this mastered at a hotter level, or do you have the ability to do that? And they may say yes, they may say no. And if they say no, and I think it's worthy of really going that extra mile, I reach out to Hans and I go, hey, Hans, I got a track. I need you to master it, about 2 dB hotter. You got some time?
Yeah. Um, it, I, People have asked me this question, and I try not to chuckle, but they say, do I stand a better chance of getting my stuff picked up by libraries, using the term generically, if I master everything I create? My answer to that is it's about the music. I don't think anybody would say that's a great piece of music. Gee, I wish they'd mastered it. Most people don't really even understand what mastering is anyway. But yeah, my advice is no, a great piece of music with a great mix that's not driving the meters crazy and is not too low is where you want to be.
Well, and the other thing I recommend to a lot of people, very few listen to me, unfortunately, but
Welcome to my world.
uh, well, if you're doing a particular genre of music or you're trying to emulate some sort of, let's say, genre vibe, whatever, and you're a fan of this artist and this artist and this artist in that genre, in that vibe, and so you write something, and maybe it's great. What I always recommend is well, put your master up against these other three that you were sort of.
Yeah, given his references. Kano is saying that same thing. He said it last night when I interviewed him. He's saying in the chat room right now. Yeah, everything you need to know is either on a TV set or on a Spotify playlist.
Well, this is Kano's a great example of someone who I can very well work with because he understands when I'm saying, hey, this is we're kind of out of tune. There's been some times where he's gone, well, you wouldn't believe how much work I've put into getting this vocal right. And I'll go, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. But he knows where it needs to be in the end. And
Yeah.
we can have those conversations. There's certain other people that I can't have that conversation with because they don't hear it, and even if they have these other reference pieces of music, for whatever reason, everybody isn't Kobe Bryant. It's like it's just and my criteria is whatever it is. If it's punk, especially if it's '70s punk, it shouldn't be all clean and perfect. And if I hear a drum machine and that kind of music, I go, huh? What the hell? No, 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 no. It's like, no, those guys were raw, and there was an edge to it. But that's different than how I listen to current hip hop or pop. It's just you have to know the space, you have to know what you're creating. And even singer-songwriter, if the guitar is louder than the vocal, and I'm going, well, wait, you're singer-songwriter, why is the guitar louder than the vocal? The vocal's the main point of the whole thing. Like Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was,
Yeah.
up front. And it's those things. It's referencing those different pieces of music. And like I say, certain people get it, and I don't get tired sharing it with people. It's like at this stage, we've talked about this. At this stage, it's like I just want to help people get it over the finish line. I
Yeah.
want to help them get better at what they do.
Here's a question from Dahlia. Do you see many requests for vintage pop from the 60s or the 80s?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
now talk to me about because your point is very well taken on clearing a piece of music from the 60s with multiple writers or there was no work for hire from anybody. Very problematic. And we both have a good friend who specializes in that, who spends an inordinate amount of time and money getting this stuff to clear. But he's also like king of the hill in that particular niche of the industry. People know, generally speaking, they make him the first call because every single piece of music in his catalog is authentically vintage. That said, people sometimes try and slip stuff to us for his listings where it is really well crafted, but and made to sound vintage, but it's not, and it could fool me, but it won't fool him because he is might be the world's foremost expert on hearing authentic vintage or not. So for most licensing companies other than his, is something that is where somebody does a really good job of making something sound vintage. Is that okay? Are the
Yeah,
supervisors looking for the vintage vibe, but not like this was absolutely written and recorded in 1964?
I have I have both clients. I've got clients that will say, "We need something that sets the vibe of 1964." Civil rights, blah blah, blah, and they'll probably say, it doesn't have to be vintage, but if it has that sensibility, great. Then I have other clients that are like, I need something between 1982 and 1986, and if it doesn't fit that time frame, don't send it.
Mm-hmm.
And even and I'll send them an email. Well, this is 1981, not 1982 through 86. 1981. Nope. And they don't even want to know about it. And they'll also go, they'll want proof. They'll want to know.
Yeah.
And for those people, it's interesting. I have my own opinion on this. It's like, well, if you can't tell by listening whether it's authentic vintage or not, what do you care?
Yeah, none of the people watching your show, except for five of us in the industry, might be able to tell the difference.
Well, especially coming off of a television set,
Yeah.
I mean, or maybe in a theater. I don't know. But my job is to make sure with those clients that are that specific that I'm not lying to them. And so part of our data collection is, when was this recorded? Who owns the master? I mean, some of the writers that have come through Taxi that I have done business with, they're the sons or grandchildren
Mm-hmm.
of the people that created that music. So I need to know that it was a inheritance. Yeah, it gets really deep.
Yeah. Can you prove that you inherited that estate? Because you don't want to sign the music and have cousin Betsy come out of the woodwork going, well, hold on, Baba Louie, you have no right to that music because, they didn't control it. You need proof that they did.
Well, and this is the thing. What people don't realize, and this is why I'm very particular with our contracts, why I'm exclusive, why I do business the way I do. It's because it only takes one oops and you're blacklisted.
Yeah.
And I have not spent 30 years building my company, getting goodwill in the community to blow it up
Over one
over,
oops.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So we go down the rabbit hole, and it's very time consuming. And I can't tell you how many pieces of music I couldn't sign because somebody was dead, and one of the 5 band members, or uh, any number of other scenarios, or this was recorded for a record company that was back in the 60s, and they were an indie company, and they went kaput. And I'm like, okay, well, typically those got sold, those pieces of those masters get sold to some other company like Rhino Records or whatever. Did that happen? I don't know. I don't know who the owner of that record company was or what he did with the.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with it.
I
And
thought your video froze when you put your hands up and stopped. I thought, oh no, we made it all the way through, and he froze.
yeah, it's tough, and it's really tough when it's a great piece of music or a group of great pieces of music, and you can't do anything with it.
Yeah. Um,
But
any
whoever asked
final?
that question, yes, if you got great 60s and 80s music, get it my way, please.
Yeah, and we run listings for that stuff all the time. And sometimes we get it. We have our mutual friend that has the company that will only sign stuff that's got the documentation. I'm sure he wouldn't argue that 50% of the stuff in their catalog easily has come through Taxi over the years, that we are their greatest resource. And we had one Taxi member in his 90s that had music from when he was a teenager during World War II that he recorded. And he was probably making an extra 20 grand a year when he was in his 90s. And I called him up one day to just say, I want you to know that all of us at Taxi are a fan of yours. And we're so happy for you that you're making this extra income while trying to live off of Social Security. And he started cursing like a sailor, which he happened to be during World War II. So he had a lot of practice and good education. Listen to me, little deaf. Listen to me, young man. It's not about the money. It's about this music has been sitting on a shelf for 64 years. And because of what you guys do, millions of people have heard. We got him in Tom Hanks movies and stuff like that. A really
Right.
big placement. And I got to tell you, I had to shut the door to my office. I was sitting in here wiping tears going, wow, maybe that's why God put me on his green earth, was to enrich this old gentleman's life, and make his dream come true. That was, man, such a satisfying moment. All right, we just got another question in. This one's from Pete Steege. Should I be mixing with stems in mind? Applying a fair amount of master compression is going to be different to just adding the stems together, or should I just forget the stems for that stage?
No, so don't master. Okay, only from my perspective, don't
Right.
master stems individually. Um,
They'll
if
never
you've got
mix
them,
back together again, right?
they'll never mix back together again. I mean, they'll sound great independently, but that you can't put the pieces back together. Um, so once you get your stereo bus going and you got your mastering plug going across the stereo bus, leave it alone. Start breaking it down and running those steps.
Do you still record music yourself? Do you ever have time?
Not so much anymore. I still am writing, but recording now is a little daunting. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little daunting. I have very little time. The fact that I can still write is a blessing. That I can make that time. Um, I love that part of the music business, and I consider myself a producer through and through, and that's where again guys like Kino and Otten. I mean, I've told Paul, hey, I need a remix of this. This is da da da, and most people don't ask Paul Otten to do a remix, but uh,
He trusts you.
it's very rare because he's really good. Same with Kano, but you have these conversations. You go, well, this would be,
Yeah.
maybe it'd be better if you did it. And I at this stage now, especially with a lot of the great writers I've met through you, through Taxi, what I love is I've gotten to know these people artistically, where as a producer, I can call up Ethan Nakamura and go, you know what? I know you've never done something like this, but I know you can.
Yeah.
And I'll send him a reference few tracks and I'll go, could you just plant the seed in your brain, let it sit there for a while and simmer and see what you come up. And these guys come back with stuff that you just go, oh my God, oh my God. And so we have that fun push and pull.
Yeah.
I love that. And some people can and some people can't. And it's okay.
Right. Yeah, you're
There's
lucky
room for
when you
everybody.
find one, and when you don't, it's business as usual.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've got a buzz because, or as they say in the biz, I got a jet, baby, because my time is up and we got something that we got to roll in a couple of minutes. But man, I really do miss you. I mean, the sadly ironic part is when we both lived in LA, we'd see each other once a year for lunch if we were lucky. But we do talk
Yeah.
often. We text probably multiple times a week. We talk fairly often, and you're the best friend I've got from far, far away.
Thank you, sir. Well, I feel the same way. And I love you guys and I love you and your family, and my heart goes out to you. And
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for the business. It's just been fantastic. Guys, keep working with this man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll be texting to you, I'm sure, over the weekend. And thank you for
All right.
taking the time to do this. Send my love to Amy, and talk to you soon, buddy.
Love you, brother. You take care.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.